I don't know if it's a celebration or a sadness, because this wonder drug has been discovered or created now, which could really help in the fight against Alzheimer's. Yet NHS patients are going to be denied it, basically because of its costs. The quango that decides this stuff, NICE, you've probably all heard of NICE, National Institute for Health and Care Excellence. Maybe it should just be called NIC and get rid of the excellence at this point. It decides which treatments are provided on the health service and has deemed that Lecanemab is not good value for money. Now, this is because, as far as I know, they work out in a sort of, I mean, you've got to have some sort of formula for this, but you've got QALYs, I think, is their unit of measurement, which sort of works like quality of life improvement and sort of in a ratio to how much a particular drug costs. So brilliant that there's apparently a new wonder drug. Less great, given that Alzheimer's is really on the increase, that people who are suffering from it might not have access to it. Well, let's find out more from an expert and introduce to the conversation Thorrun Govind. Thorrun, great to have you back on the show. Tell us about this drug and some of the reasoning behind why people will not have access to it.
So Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia. You know, we've been hearing a lot more about this in recent years, and it's good that we're having a conversation about it because it affects 1 in 6 over 80-year-olds, but actually probably more concerning as well, 1 in 13 people with Alzheimer's are actually under 65 and suffer from early onset Alzheimer's. And this drug is designed to slow the progression of early stage Alzheimer's. So if we just think about how drugs are regulated and how they end up to us as patients, firstly, the MHRA, which is the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, licenses them and says that they can be used. And they've said that at the moment it can be used, so it can be used privately. And it just can't be used for people who have blood thinners or who have a particular gene. And then NICE get into the equation, and NICE are balancing the care for patients, but also the value for the taxpayer, which means that this drug is not going to be available. They're going to be making a final decision at the end of the year, but this drug may not be available for NHS patients, which, you know, is slightly concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand much about how it works, but it's been hailed apparently as the beginning of the end for Alzheimer's after trials have shown that it slowed cognitive decline by 27% in sufferers, so almost by a third. And when you look at the costs, the eye-watering costs borne out in caring for people who end up with dementia, at the moment it's approximately £42 billion a year, and a lot of those costs are borne out by families and social care bodies. But forecasts said this figure could reach 90 billion. So there's an argument potentially that invest in the drug to slow it or potentially even prevent it from happening. You're going to save money down the line in the round-the-clock care you have to give to these people and at the same time prevent their suffering.
I think, yeah, I mean, quality of life, you know, we can prolong people's age, we can, you know, have people able to live in accommodation, things like that. But also we want people to enjoy their life. That's the whole point, isn't it? Of why we even consider why we might involve medication in the first place as well, to make life easier. But really, so if we look at the US, the cost of this is about 20k per patient per year. And they've not actually announced any sort of pricing publicly here in the UK yet, but obviously that's something that we'll be keeping an eye on. But in terms of how this drug works, it clears a rogue protein called amyloid, which builds up in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. So, and it's given by intravenous infusion as well. So people are going to have to either go in to hospital or need some sort of care every 2 weeks in the provision of this. So if you think about when, you know, you and me go and we might go and get our paracetamol from the pharmacy, Alex, that's a different scenario to when someone might need an IV injection and all the care that is needed to provide that as well. I think it is bittersweet, probably, you know, for those who are living with this, for families of those who are living with it, because it's when you see hope on the horizon, no doubt you are questioning why, you know, things can't be speeded up, or especially when it is so harrowing to have to deal with this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was looking here that, yeah, your 20,000 figure's right, and then the administration of it to an individual could see it cost 30,000 per patient per year, but you wonder how much, if that person ends up needing round-the-clock care, how much that costs per year. And then also, I mean, it's never that simple doing the equation of take money from here and put money there. I've never understood why in Scotland and Wales there are free prescriptions when plenty of people could probably afford to pay prescriptions. And then, you know, even if one person who could afford it pays for a prescription and then one person gets to sort of have this drug, to me, that is, you know, far better than the current setup. Thorrun, thank you ever so much for coming on and explaining that to us. And heartbreaking news, I think, for a lot of people, because so many people out there now have relatives affected by this awful, awful disease. And it's not just horrible and frightening, disturbing and harrowing for the people suffering from it, but for the family as well, watching that cognitive decline, trying to manage them, trying to look after them, but also sort of feeling the breakdown of what was once a treasured, beloved relationship. It is such a nasty, horrible disease that we must take seriously. And I just hope, actually, that, you know, perhaps as they continue to develop drugs such as this one, we can actually get to a stage where they're even more effective. And then it's a no-brainer to say that we should be paying for it.